In this tutorial, we are going on how to create this app using table view and recover tapped cell numbers. Okay, let's start. Open Xcode and go to File New Project. Choose App and click Next. Choose your product name as the app name. Your bundle identifier must be unique. Commonly, you will use your domain and app name. Select Storyboard as interface. Language Swift and click Next. Choose your folder destination and click Create. On the navigator, go to Main Storyboard. Now click on Show Library and search for Table View. Drag and drop the table view to the Storyboard View Controller UI. Now let's adjust the width and height to cover all the screen display, leaving some upper and lower margins. Perfect. Now let's add constraints. Let's set the trailing, leading, bottom, and top to 0. As you see, if we inspect the constraints applied to these table view, the trailing, leading, bottom, and top have a safe area. Okay, so now let's go to the view controller to create an IB outlet to connect the table view. Let's create an IB outlet variable for the table view from the class UI table view. Now, let's set table view delegate to self. And table view data source to self too. Now let's go back to main storyboard to make the connections. Click on the table view, then press Ctrl and drag the blue arrow to the view controller to connect data source and delegate. Now right-click on View Controller and connect the table view outlet. Now let's add UI Table View Delegate Protocol and UI Table View Data Source Protocol, a protocol that defines a blueprint of methods or properties that can then be inherited or adopted by classes or other types. Now let's create a struct for each table view cell data. A struct in Swift language is a data structure that can hold variables of distinct data types. Let's add a variable with name, title, and string as data type. Now let's add a variable with name, description, and string as data type. Now let's create a variable named sounds of type array, and let's create some sounds using the struct structure. Now let's implement the protocol stubs. Let's return as the number of rows in the section the number of items in the sounds array using the method count. Now let's write an initial code to create the UI table view cell. We are using the method dequeueReusableCell with identifier. We are using cell as the identifier, but use any other significant name for your app. Let's return the cell. Now let's add the zip file and the code to create a custom. Go to File, New File. Select Cocoa Touch class, write UI Table View Cell as the subclass, and name your main class with any significant name that you later remember. Also created XIB file must be checked. I'm moving both files to my working directory. Now let's open the XIB file to create the UI and assign constraints. Let's increase the height of the cell. Let's add an image view from the library by drag and dropping the image view. Now let's create the required constraints to define the relations between the image view and the cell. Now let's add the labels for the title and description. Finally, let's add the constraints for the title and description. We are making the title wider by constraining the title with trailing to 10. We are applying an analogy of constraints to the description by also setting trailing to 10. Let's create a let UI nib object that contains interface builder nib files. Let's pass a nib name and a nil bundle. As the identifier, we are using sound table view cell. And we are passing nil for the bundle. Also, add the cell identifier that must match our previous one. Now let's connect the title and description, code and UI. Let's go to sound table view cell class with the Swift code. So let's create an IB outlet. An outlet is a property of an object that references another object. So let's create one for the title and one for the cell's description. Now let's go to the XIB file sound table view cell. Right-click on the XIB file sound table view cell and let's connect both outlets. Let's fix this by implicitly adding an exclamation mark to unwrap the optional. Now let's cast this cell to our sound table view cell or any name you have given to the custom cell class. Let's set the cell title label to the titles we have created, and let's do the same with the description label to map the descriptions in the array by ordering them from index 0 to max number of rows. Now let's run this code using a simulator or a device connected to your Mac. Now let's register the nib using the table view method register. In Assets, right-click to create a new asset. Double-click on the asset to import your own image. Now drag the image holding option to include other sizes for different devices. Let's add the image of the lion. Now back to Sound Table View Cell Zip to adjust the constraints height relations so the table view cell has a fixed height from custom created and doesn't take more space because has no complete constraints. Now let's build the app on the target device. This is the app working. Let's add a toast message to print the selected row. Okay, so we are creating the function show toast for creating a simple display message for the cell that is currently tapped. We are using the method didSelectRowAdd to get the index path row tapped and retrieve the title and be able to open another view controller or add more complex logic. Finally, let's run the app to test on a real device. This is the app showing the title on the tapped cell. Thanks for seeing this video.